Do you want the true Western hunt experience? Book your hunt of a lifetime today with Highland Outfitters, LLC. Located in Highland, Wyoming, 50 miles west of Casper. Their location in central Wyoming gives you access to some of the best hunting areas in the state. Highland specializes in archery hunts for elk and antelope. Their operations include Wyoming, Texas, and Africa. Highland Outfitters employs some of the finest guides in the business. All guides are licensed by the Wyoming Board of Professional Outfitters and Guides. No matter what the species you decide to hunt, you can count on your guide giving you 110% of being the true professional guide from start to finish. Book your hunt today at 307-797-3311 or 307-797-3312. Visit them on the web at HighlandOutfitters.com. With Highland Outfitters, you will get the true Western adventure.
Folks, welcome to another episode of On the Limb Podcast with Nature's Voice Game Calls, where deer camp becomes a reality for every listener. Join us as we talk God, family, country, and everything outdoors. Kick back, relax, and have a listen. Now, here's your host and co-host, Mike and Dan.
So that's cool. I think that's a little bit better than just a single shed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mike's seen it. I mean, it's massive. It's a dandy.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say, it's got to be over close to 300 inch.
Oh, I would say so. It's pretty massive.
Yeah.
And it barely fits in your house.
Yeah. You literally, if we move the couches around,
yeah,
you got to watch where you walk.
Oh, yeah, because your head will get impounded with a antler.
Wow. It's actually, it's a perfect hat holder right now.
Yeah.
I got all my cowboy hats and
Yeah.
stuff, which, I'm going to be having a new one here soon, I think. I'm going to pull the trigger.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to CJ.
Oh, nice. Yeah, old CJ Landers here in West Virginia making them hats.
West Virginia Hat Works.
Oh, yeah? Yep.
Landers.
Check that out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. He wasn't here for that episode.
He wasn't here and he don't listen to our
Yeah,
episode. So
that just goes to show how much he listens.
Anyways, so let's talk about some episodes. Season 3, episode 131 has dropped and it's out now. So we had the guys from Only Bows, Urban Pursuit, and Pursuit Live on. The Yankees.
Yeah.
We thought some of them were from PA, but I guess all of them are from New York.
Yeah.
But no, they're great guys. We met them up there at the Hunt Chef Deer Gear and Beer Expo. So be sure you check that out. And our year in review, be sure you check it out. We always do a year in review. It's going to have little snippets from all of our episodes here in 2024. And be sure to go check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Absolutely.
Okay, past and present episodes.
Also, don't forget to use Podcast 10 at checkout with outdoor-pro-shop.com to receive 10% off your order at checkout. A lot of great products on his website there. He's, like I said a couple times before, he's getting silencers in now, and I do believe I talked to him and he said he can help with the tax stamps and if you're wanting an FF or a trust.
Yeah, the
NFA trust.
NFA trust, yes.
Yep.
All right, so that's enough of our spiel. Without further ado, please welcome Jeff Coxen, the host of Brotherhood of Brews and the owner of Rogue Element and Sycan Media. I don't know if I said that right, Jeff. Correct me.
Sycan Media. Yeah.
Sycan Media. Okay.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing good. So what are you sipping on there this evening, Mr. Brotherhood of Brew?
I'm actually going kind of light because I got stuff to do tonight. But
oh, okay.
3:30 here, or else I've got a couple of bottles of whiskey here that I've been meaning to open. But I'm actually just having that's actually on Brotherhood of Brew. We did an episode with him. It's called Two Town Cider House. It's a Pacific pineapple hard cider. It's actually really good. I never thought I'd ever get into ciders, but it's super crushable and like really tasty. I haven't been doing like a lot of the beer stuff since the TV show kind of folded, but I haven't I've been kind of staying away from really thick beers and stuff. I've lost 75 pounds this year. So the biggest thing of it has been like not absolutely crushing every beer that comes in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. I haven't figured out
Which
that
has
yet.
been incredibly hard to do. So I've been kind of doing more ciders and water.
Yeah, I seen your post there when you started on your weight journey there, trying to lose weight
Yeah.
again, and you were going to the lighter beers. You like a full-bodied beer.
I like a barrel aged brew.
Oh,
So
yeah.
14, 15%, something that's been aged for a while. I've got several beers that have been aging since like 2010 in my cellar.
Nice.
Yeah, I went ham on it, man. Especially during the pandemic. I gained 75 pounds during the pandemic, or 60, something like that. And I was up to 330 pounds, 335 actually last Christmas. So this Christmas is like the 1 year anniversary of actually really taking it serious. And I was diabetic. I'm not anymore. I was on a CPAP machine. I'm not anymore. And so I let it get a little out of hand.
Yeah.
And after having the third kid, it was just hard to move around. I felt like crap, and clothes didn't fit. I was in tight 3XLs, and now I'm in an XL, and went from a 42 waist to a 34. So it's
Wow, that's awesome.
still got about 30, 40 more pounds to go, but no, it's been great, man. It's but a lot of that is just really I don't really watch what I eat. I just moderate it.
Yeah,
Or I just had no filter. It was just like, feed me more,
that's a key right there. Is having everything in moderation. You can basically eat what you want.
Yeah, that and just sitting on my ass all the time.
Yeah.
Stuff, and I was like, dude, I would look back in my phone and just to see where my steps were, and I was like, I was doing less than 3,000 steps a day. I was just in my office all the time and really not doing a lot. And I went from being like super active, hiking, biking, doing everything, to nothing during the pandemic. And I got in this funk and then had no energy, and then all of a sudden now I'm like, I golf 2 to 3 times a week. I'm hiking. I averaged like 11,000 steps a day, and I just try to stay active. And along with that is I do eat pretty healthy in general, and I did before, but I was just having a lot of it.
Yeah. So talking about being active in the outdoors, let's back up there a little bit and give us a little background on yourself. And you were originally in North Carolina, right?
No, I'm from Oregon.
But was you in North Carolina for a bit for something? I can't remember.
Yeah. From 2012 to 2014, or 2011 to 2014, my wife was going to Duke Law School, so we were in town.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what it was. Gotcha.
Nice.
So tell us about your time there in Oregon.
So I was born and raised in Central Oregon, Bend, Oregon, and my parents split up, so I kind of shared time between there and the Oregon coast, Central Oregon coast, Newport to be exact. And I spent my entire youth basically in the outdoors. If I wasn't riding dirt bikes, I was on my grandfather's farm and my grandma's ranch, and grew up living a pretty big outdoor lifestyle. My whole family on both sides were very into hunting and fishing, and being fully self-sustainable with farm animals and things like that. And unfortunately, my mother remarried many times and moved around and went to lots of different schools and things like that. But once I got older, I played football for a short stint with Oregon State University, and did a bunch of other stuff, and that never lasted. I was undersized, got injured, and grades, school just wasn't for me. And I gravitated more towards professional life and in selling cars, and did 20 years in that business. But during that whole time, if I wasn't fly fishing, I was hunting during my off time. And once I got older and eventually met my wife in 2005, we moved to Portland a couple years after that. And then I didn't hunt or fish for like 5 years. I was so focused on work, and then with the recession, I was working constantly to try to make up the loss of income. And then I got bored, and me and a buddy, we went to this outdoor show. It's called the Pacific Northwest Sportsman's Show. So it's kind of like, I guess you'd call a SHOT Show, kind of for everybody. And we went in there, and he wanted to buy something because he was elk hunting that fall. And I just realized I still had all my guns and my bow and everything. And he's like, "Why don't you go elk hunting with us?" And I was like, "Dude, I haven't elk hunted since I was in like my early 20s. And at this point I was almost 30. And it kind of just completely sparked everything again. I went and ended up, actually that day I ended up buying all new camo, a new bow, new everything, got outfitted. And within the next month or two, I was elk hunting with them in Eastern Oregon. And that kind of led into one thing. After that season was up, I was unsuccessful, but I did get a deer. I got a blacktail that fall with a rifle. And then we started duck hunting, which was, I was never a big duck hunter growing up. We did a lot of like upland games. We did a lot of quail and chucker, stuff like that, pheasants. But we never really got into duck hunting. I never had anybody to do it. I was like all fully self-taught. I remember buying like a Primo's call that came with a CD or a DVD and learning, or as a CD, so you could listen to it in your car. And I remember I had a 40-minute drive to work every day, so I was teaching myself how to call a duck. And then I would go every once in a while with guys in this men's group thing that I got introduced to that would take me out on their boats on the Columbia River, and we'd duck hunt, and they would teach me how to do calls here and there. And so one thing led to another. When I was 16 was the first time I picked up a camera, and I became a photographer pretty early, and I was really good at it, won tons of awards. And I even got in a very famous fashion magazine and did New York Fashion Week and a bunch of other stuff, but it never really paid the bills like the car business did. So I kind of put it down, and when things turned digital, I kind of like shied away from it. I didn't see the art in it, and I thought it was too easy. Little did I know. But in 2008, I picked another camera back up, and that was about the same time I started hunting again. And I don't know how the two married or whatever, but I was like started taking photos of us hunting, and then I just started taking video on this little thing I got for Christmas from my wife called I think it was called a flip cam, but it was this little camera that had like an internal battery, and it only stored so much memory, and had a built-in USB, and it only took 720 HD. It was terrible.
Yeah.
And I remember just mounting it to random stuff and making videos with it. And then I think it was like this winter of 2009 or 2010. I think it was 2010. A thing called the Full Draw Film Festival came into Portland, Oregon. And it was basically like 5 films from amateur filmmakers that were all hunters, bow hunters. And we went, and my buddy Glenn at the time, who started Heavy Hitters with me, we went to it, and I was like, dude, we could do this. We could make these. And he's like, what would it take? And that's when I was like, well, it's going to take a couple $1,000s in camera equipment. But other than that, we just need to go out and hunt and film each other. You're going to have to learn how to do it, and I can teach you, and then I'm going to have to learn how to edit, because at the time I had no clue how to edit. And that's kind of where everything started.
Awesome. So how did the Brotherhood of the Brews get going? Just because of the love, the taste of the beer, or how'd that all start out?
So my family has a pretty deep history in microbrewing. Have any of you guys ever heard of Rogue Ale?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So my grandparents started that company in 1988, along with 2 other people. So my grandmother, my great uncle, and then 2 other guys, a guy named Jack Joyce, who is the CFO of Adidas footwear. And then the brewmaster, his name is John Meyer, still is.
Right.
But my uncle, my great uncle, Bob Waddell, was the CFO of Nike. So the money from Nike and money from Adidas started that brewery. And at one time, we were the biggest microbrewery outside of Sam Adams, which is still, I think, the largest.
Yeah.
But
I've had a lot of Rogue. That's funny.
I think we know who can help us get our camera equipment.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, I know a thing or two.
Yeah, buddy, you sure do.
That's awesome.
No, that's great. I didn't know that that history behind you there. I don't know.
So I actually learned how to brew when I was 17 because I worked there.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
So just learning some tips here and there from the brewmasters and watching how everything was done, I ended up learning. And then I started me and a buddy started my own beer in my mom's garage. She had no clue we were brewing beer. We started it in the bathtub and then moved it out into the garage where she never went. And we brewed our first beer. It was terrible. It was so bad.
Man. Well, yeah, but I got the experience with that with my whiskey trial. With my whiskey trial,
he was like, "Oh, this is not drinkable."
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's we learned by trial and error. We just kept going at it, and I would get every once in a while I would buy stuff off of the truck, kind of. I guess you could say the guys that worked there knew they couldn't really supply me with things, but I would just like hook them up with like $15 here, $20 there to give me what I needed. And then at the time, the internet was kind of just really starting, and this is 1997, I think, 98, and I would just buy what I needed online and learn what I needed online, and we started making some pretty decent beer, which back then was like a lager or a stout. And we started with stouts because the yield time was quicker, where lagers take longer time. That's why you don't see a lot of microbreweries do lager, and because the yield and profit is less. But yeah, so that was basically. I had some history in it, and I was always kind of a beer geek, especially growing up in Bend, Oregon, where there's Deschutes Brewing, which is one of the top 3 breweries in the world as far as microbrews goes, as far as I'm concerned. But we had a lot of good breweries and stuff there. But to be honest, I had no intentions to ever shoot a show like that. It was in 2014 or 2016. I was working on a show called Booze Traveler on the Travel Channel, and I was a stunt rider.
wow.
So they had like camera equipment hooked to my motorcycle, and they were doing an episode called Biker Bars, and they were going to all these different biker bars and telling the stories of those. And I was sitting there with a buddy who happened to be in the film business at the time. He was a PA, which is a production assistant on the show Smallville on WB about Superman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yep.
And he just happened to be in between seasons, so he was hanging out with me, and he's like, dude, we could do a show like this. We'd make it so much better. This is kind of corny. And I was like, I mean, I like Bruce Traveler. Jack Maxwell, who was the host of it, was awesome. We had tons of fun doing that. But it started kind of turning my wheels, and I was like, I can do this. I had just walked away from Heavy Hitters Outdoors and basically gave that company to the rest of the guys. I put tons of money into it and walked away from it, and I was needing an outlet for my camera work. And so within about 3 weeks, I had a script written, and I pitched it to my buddy Anthony, who ended up being my director on that. And I think within the next 2 years we were shooting, we kind of had a little bit of a hiatus. Actually, it was about 2 years. So that was 2016 when we did that. We filmed our first episode February of 2018. And the only reason we didn't shoot it sooner is because I moved from Los Angeles to the Bay Area where I am now. So I had to wait for my move. I had to wait to get settled in and do some other stuff and get my business going better. But yeah, that's how that started. It was like, hey, how do we make a show about beer or anything like, basically fermented or distilled? How do we take that but make it watchable and fun and something that hasn't been done yet? So I've always been kind of into overlanding or off-roading and adventures, and whether it's hunting or fishing or something outdoors or motorsport wise, can we tie all this stuff into a beer show? And it was kind of difficult because a lot of companies didn't want to sponsor us because we drank, we were drinking, and especially on the motorsport side, they're like, well, we don't want to be involved with beer and drinking and driving. And so we had to do a bunch of PSA stuff in each episode, and a bunch of things like that in our contract saying, hey, we'll never drink and drive or anything. But outside of that, we shot the pilot episode, and it just absolutely took off. And we ended up doing 7 full episodes and then a bonus episode at the end. And we did 74 million views worldwide.
Wow.
It was, we were on Amazon Prime and Drink TV.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at there earlier. So the Drink TV is no longer?
No, it isn't. So that was actually started by the Brewdog Network. Brewdogs, which everybody has pretty much heard of. Those guys blew up. I mean, they own so much now. I think they're worth $2 billion now, and started in their basement in the UK. But they were hoping that was going to turn into like Food Network, but for beverages, and it was just shitty marketing. They didn't do a good job at it all. And we came in there and crushed it. And they were trying to kind of ride the coattails of Zane Lamprey, who has a couple shows. He was on Travel Channel for a while and has still, I think, the record for the best Kickstarter for a hoodie that you can store beer in. But
Nice.
Yeah,
I need
they
that.
and he's a very famous comedian, but we crushed his shows. We came in there and absolutely dominated that. He did not like that very much, but we were
That's
supposed to
funny.
do a second season. We had all the contracts in negotiating, and then I got a check in the mail for a very sizable, enough to cover everything for the first like 5 episodes, cameras, everything, editing. And then the pandemic started and I had to write the check back and it killed the whole thing.
Oh,
So we didn't get to do
man.
season 2, which I thought was going to be way better. I was bringing my best friend in on as a host, and we were gonna kind of dial it in a little bit better. We refined it big time. It was going to be awesome. We had some really big names getting involved, not only in the bourbon side, but we were even going to go across the pond and do some stuff in Scotland.
Oh,
And
man.
we had a lot planned, and it may come back. I don't know. We've been talking about it.
Yeah.
We kind of missed doing it, but as of right now, it's dead. I don't even have the website up anymore. It's but every once in a while, I'll watch it. I'll watch part of it, and I'll be like, "Damn it, man! I got to find a way to do this again. This
Yeah.
was so much fun. It was just a lot of work."
Yeah, we was talking about that before the podcast. You know, some things have come and gone, and you know, a lot of things that we like have faded away, and it's just like we're in a turning of the age here. I guess I don't know what it is, but we'll end up getting back to those things. I hope.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just.
I think
it's
so
just
too.
crazy.
The pandemic changed so much that there's a lot of companies that went away, and there was a lot of projects that I remember there's a lot of projects that I thought were going to, especially in like the overland space, because I'm so heavily involved in it, is I thought things were going to blow up differently and they didn't. And companies I think were so afraid at first that they went, and especially networks like TV networks,
Yeah.
they did
Oh,
the
yeah.
opposite of what they should have done, because people were stuck at home binge watching everything, and then they were like, well, we're not going to fund this, and the insurance companies weren't going to fund it if people weren't vaccinated. And like they tried to pull that shit with me, and it's like it made it very hard to get new content out there to be made. But then that's why YouTube blew up. YouTube
Oh,
absolutely.
Lord, yes.
If you started a YouTube during the pandemic, chances were you were blowing up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got in on that game a little late.
Well, no, we've had a YouTube page ever
Right.
since we started the business. We've just not pushed it that much.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just so much to do, and Jeff knows this. If you don't have a team around you that can, do some of the things that you're doing, or kind of switch off and do different things, or have somebody that does one thing, I mean, it's not a one person show.
We can't even
You know
get
what I
Dave
mean?
to show up half the time.
He's having enough
Yeah,
bad problems over there. We're
yeah,
gonna
he's-
leave him alone for tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna back off on Dave. And it's a shame too, because I'm back in the studio.
Well, he's not feeling good, I don't think, either. So he said he wasn't feeling good today, and he was like, "But I'll be there." I'm like, "Hey, man, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do." But yeah, I mean, we have a good time, but it does. It takes a good bit of people to get things like that out, and there's a lot of stuff to do.
Absolutely.
People that watch things and they're sitting there at home scrolling on Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is, they don't realize what people put into some of those little short videos.
Oh, yeah, they take forever, some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get it just right.
You got to get things right, and it's just got to hit right. But you guys have won some awards, so tell us about some of those awards that you guys won.
Well, with Brotherhood of Brew, somehow, and I still honestly don't know how this happened, we made it into the Cannes Film Festival, which is like, yeah, it was just for a preview. It wasn't the whole film. It wasn't a whole episode. Just somehow it had leaked out, and we don't know how. Like we did kind of shop it around a bunch to film festivals. Like we were in South by Southwest. We don't win anything there, but that's South by Southwest is how we got found by Amazon. We won the Los Angeles Independent Film Awards for Best New Pilot for a reality show, and we beat out like 400 other shows.
Wow.
We won one in Las Vegas, like 2 in Las Vegas. Crap, what else did we won a bunch of other little ones here and there. And then we won like some Webby thing, and I don't know. I've got like a whole thing of trophies behind me. I should probably read them, but they, I mean, none of them made us money or anything except for the South by Southwest one, which was the one that really that got us in front of like a bunch of, we had offers from A&E, History Channel, Scripps Network, which ended up getting bought out by Discovery, which Scripps Network back in the day, that was like Travel Channel, HGTV and stuff. They're all owned by Discovery now. But their big things were, they wanted to pay us a bunch of money for the brand itself and own it outright, which I was not open for that at the time. Hindsight, maybe, but then the clause in the contract made it to where like they could switch the host if they weren't happy. So basically, they could have bought me out at any point because they wanted to pay me per episode as the host.
Yeah.
And then they kind of wanted to bring their own production crew in, and I've seen their shows. I've worked on their shows like Booze Traveler, and I wasn't interested in that. I was like, you're going to take this awesome idea and you're going to just absolutely take a big, Hollywood dump on it. And it's not going to be any good. At the end of the day, you're going to put some guy who's like G-rated in here. And I'm a pirate, man. I drop F-bombs. I have a good time. I have tattoos. I listen to heavy metal.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what I want. There isn't a show for people like this.
Right.
And I know it may, crush my demographic a little bit. I was very wrong about that. But they that's the route I knew they would go. And so I just said no. And a part of me was like, you know what, take this 6-figure check for just the brand. And then they wanted to pay me like $30,000 an episode as a host or something like that. And I was like, cool, let's go crush 13 episodes. I'll make a bunch of money. And if they want to switch hosts, go ahead, whatever. I made my money, I'm out. But the problem is that would have kept me away from my home 200 days a year.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's still your,
I started to do the math
child.
and I'm like, I've got kids and a wife and she's an attorney and, she works crazy hours. She was with a private firm at the time. So she was really working crazy hours. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just not going to do that. I watched, somebody I looked up to, I was fortunate enough to meet him. I've worked with his crews and he was like an idol of mine, was Anthony Bourdain. And he's one of the biggest reasons we did the show.
Yeah.
And
I've seen a lot of similarities in your all stuff with, the way he done things. Yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
I wish I had the chops he had for voiceover, man. I don't know how to write like him. I tried to hire somebody to write, but it didn't sound like me when I did the voiceover. And the terrible thing about the whole thing is like, I edited and produced that whole show. And back then I wasn't as talented as I am now. And I wish I could kind of go back and redo it and color grade it better and do the writing better. But when I was doing the voiceovers on it, I just rushed it. When I wrote the script for the voiceovers, I didn't really sit down and go through it. I was so worried about the timing and trying to get those episodes out that I didn't really take that time and put the art into it like he did. He's such an incredible writer.
Yeah.
And I just don't have that. And I had somebody who's kind of like that write it for me. And the way she did it, like, it just didn't sound right coming from me. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do what I do and try to make it sound as best as I could. And it came out fine. But when I read a bunch of his stuff about being away from home for so long, ultimately, I think is what killed him. I obviously was not, I don't have the demons and vices that he has, but it was like one of those things. I was like, it's just going to suck the life out of this and me. And I don't want to be at a point where I missed a bunch of my kids' stuff. And that's why I got out of the car business. And so I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And did it cost me money or maybe multiple seasons for it and stuff? Sure. But, we did it our way and we had so much fun and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Now you've done some really good work over the years. I remember, just watching some of your all's videos out on hunts, or if you all were out four-wheeling or whatever, and you all are fixing burgers and just cracking open brews out there. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, we're a bit over the top. And that's funny, when I did heavy hitters, I started with that. Our whole thing was like doing it our way also. And then we had sponsors that were just like, we can't be involved in this. And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, you guys say the F word. And I was like, doesn't everybody?
That's what I was thinking.
They're like, no, it was so good, old boy. And like, I'm not religious. And I know that most of the people I go out with are, but I was like, we're not doing all this stuff on the show where like, if the animal goes down, on every show, almost, it's like, I don't know if you're expecting me to start praying or doing other stuff. And we actually had, one guy who's like, hey, listen, if you guys like, I only support Christians and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, I get it, man. I was like, I know where I come from. I know my family is religious, and they're very, I'm not allowed to cuss inside the house. I'm not allowed to do this stuff. I was like, but you're trying to make us to be people we're not, and we're not bagging on anybody else for the way they do things. This is just how we do things, and it's different. And that's, we want people to see that there's something other than what all the cookie cutter shit that's already out there. I was like, I feel like every show I watch, all the other ones behind it are the same. It's just a different person.
Yeah.
But the personalities are the same. Like, I can't, dude, it's probably been 8 years since I've turned on Sportsman's Channel or Outdoor Network. I haven't.
Oh yeah.
I haven't.
agree with that,
I haven't watched. I can't tell you how long it's been since I've watched.
I mean, I'm not a TV person anyway,
but I've watched films.
Yeah.
On YouTube,
I've watched.
I'll
films.
watch a film.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good, smaller companies out there that are putting out amazing content, like Heartland Bowhunter.
Yeah.
I mean, they put out some really good content. I've watched them for years, and I came across them back in the day when they were first getting started, and they have excelled like crazy, in their stuff. But I mean, there's
if you guys ever get bored, and I don't know if you've heard of it or not. I hope you have. They have enough followers, but. My buddy Chase Christopher, he has a show that they do on YouTube called The Mountain Project. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Put that in my notes.
It's cinematic. They go now they're going all over the place. I think they went over and did I think they did some goat hunting over in like Kazakhstan or some shit, and they're up in Alaska. They're going everywhere, and they just put down monsters.
Yeah.
And they're a great group of guys. I've met them. We've talked a lot. We did, when I first started Rogue Element, our big thing was like, I walked away from heavy hitters. That was really hard for me to walk away from that. I spent $96,000 of my own money into heavy hitters throughout the years.
Yeah.
And I never, ever got a return. I was always lost money. And it became to the point where I was living in Los Angeles and the rest of the guys were up in Northeast Oregon. And they were all having fun out hunting, doing all this stuff. I was stuck at home editing. I was a 14-hour drive to them. The hunting and where I was at in LA sucked. It was like a complete waste of time and money. And it got to a point where I was hemorrhaging money. Mm-hmm. I was doing all the work as far as like editing and getting sponsorships. Like they were doing some of it too, but not to the rate that I was.
Yeah.
And I just kind of got a pad out and then a pencil, and I put a line down the middle and put pros and cons, and the cons outweighed the pros. And at that point I just had to walk away, and I didn't walk away the way I wanted to necessarily. There's a guy in the group that absolutely made us implode. I lost my best friend of 25 years over it. And
that sucks.
Because of this dick who just was a control freak and not fun to be around. Like he had his moments where he was like, just a great guy. And then you would turn around and he was like kicking us out of camp because he rented the house and, other stuff. And there was just always this drama. And I just didn't want to be involved in that. And we had creative differences. I was like, we can't keep, putting the show out on NBC Sports and not making any money. I was like, it has to make money. And the only way for us to make money is we're going to have to start introducing things companies other than the hunting industry, because we're the lower 5%.
Yeah.
We don't tree stand hunt. We don't hunt in the Midwest. We don't whitetail hunt. We're a minority. It's hard for guys in the South and West and Midwest or East and Midwest to get emotionally in charge of this because they've never been up in the mountains chasing muleys and elk. They don't know what it's like. So they would rather watch something that they can connect to. And,
oh yeah, for sure.
I was like, so we've got to find something else out. And I wanted to get motorsports involved and get I had a built Jeep at the time. And we had Tacoma, another Jeep. And we're like, dude, so we formed a partnership with 4 Wheel Parts. We got a huge check from them and that they ended up backing out on, which sucked. But we ended up finding, we got with General Tire and the wheel company and some other stuff. And they're all willing to finally put us in the black. And they just didn't want to film it, and they only wanted to hunt and fish and stuff. And there's another guy in the group who's with, he's in Rogue Element with me named Steve Toms, I love him like a brother. He's just such an awesome guy, and he lives in Northern California. He lives up in Weed, and I got to talking to him and one of my other camera guys who was up in Oregon, and he was not wanting to be in heavy hitters anymore either. And we're like, you want to just start our own thing here? I was like, I have a couple sponsors that I can't just leave them with the guys knowing, they just gave us bows, and there's some other guys. I was like, we can't burn them, so we can probably bring them over. And anyways, they came with me, and they left heavy hitters with me. And that was the only part where I was really like, I didn't give, like, we kind of started the project on the side, which was fine. I was like, let's start the project and see kind of where it goes, and we'll still do some heavy hitter stuff. It can't overlap. We can't there can't be anything that's going to be a conflict of interest. Yeah. And if we can figure that out, then let's make this work. And so we we started filming, and then I wanted to find the right time to tell the guys, like, hey, listen, I'm out or something. And then somehow it leaked out that we were doing this stuff, and I don't know how. And it blew up. One thing led to another, and I was just like, fuck, I should have just told them right away that I'm doing this, but I knew where I was going to be. They were going to blow up. They're going to be pissed about it.
Yeah, sure.
But it just got to a point where I was like, just tired of butting heads. Mm-hmm. And I was like, butting heads and losing money. So I was like, okay, I'm done. Yeah. Sure. And we had a Zoom call, and I just said, listen, I'm giving you the keys to this house. I've spent all the freaking money on it. I'm giving you everything. I'm going to hand over the checkbook. There's some money in the account. Do what you want with it. Here's all the hard drives with all the footage on it. I will help you guys edit as much as you guys need for the next year until you find somebody else or something else. I'm not completely walking away. I will help, and I'm here if you need it. We are friends. And they chose to not be friends, so I just walked away.
Yeah. Sometimes it can get like that. I hate to hear those things, but there's a lot of animosity that goes into those things, and sometimes it just happens. I mean, you hate to lose friendships over things like that, but
well, when there's a cancer inside of a company, it's hard for everybody to see it.
Yeah.
I was technically on the outside looking in because I wasn't there every day with them. They were all hanging out and stuff.
Yeah.
So they weren't really seeing it like I was, and my other two guys, they saw it right away. And I was trying to ignore it. I was trying to not believe it. I was like, it'll fix itself.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. We were successful. We had season 2. I had it halfway edited for NBC Sports, and it just, you could tell just in the videos that it would just, we weren't a team like we were in the first, season that we did. And so I started this, this thing with Rogue Element, and I tied Rogue into it because of my family's beer business, growing up around the Rogue River and things like that. And we were kind of rogue because we left a group, and it kind of all just tied in perfectly with the name. So we did 2 short films, and the way that tied in with the Mountain Project and Chase Christopher was that we entered in, we were sponsored by Kuyu, and we got into the Kuyu Film Festival, and they won the long form. We won the short form. Yeah. And so it was kind of weird. I did a really controversial 5-minute film called High Climate, and people took it wrong. They were thinking I was like a climate activist type thing, but it wasn't. I was just talking about how the last couple seasons had just been hotter because of an Indian summer, and I hadn't been seeing anything. And but it was also talking about, people not treating public lands the way they needed to be treated, and us not getting access because antis were trying to kick us off land and not let us hunt and things like that. So, but because of the controversy, it did well, and it was shot well. It was crazy. But that was the kickstart of Rogue Element. And our biggest thing was we just wanted to do really high-end cinematic short films. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to, we also came in second in the long form. We had a fishing one. We were the only non-hunting film in the whole festival. We ended up getting second. It's called River of Steel. If you get bored, you can watch it. It's shot super cinematic. It's about a guy that grew up in my coastal town, went to high school in, about his dad teaching him how to fly fish and him trying to land his first steelhead. And you see on TV about him catching you see him catch basically one of his first big steelhead.
Nice.
But it was It was awesome. It took us 3 weeks to film it. It looks like it's filmed in like 2 days, but it took us 3 weeks. He had to wear the same clothes over and over.
Yeah, and see that's
Yeah.
what's crazy. I mean, people think that it would have been shot in a couple days, but look at all the time and effort that you put into that and money. I mean,
All the editing. Yeah, exactly.
it's just crazy.
Oh, yeah. It took months of editing.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, just to find the songs that we put in there took weeks.
Yeah.
Like I'd go 4 or 5 hours a day just going through songs, trying to find the right one to fit the moment. And people don't understand that part of it. And then hunting,
I get into making ads.
Spot and stock is one of the hardest things I've ever had to film, ever. Like I get emails and phone calls all the time of people asking me to film them hunting, and I decline almost every time. It's such a giant pain in the ass to spot and stock film, especially you're usually carrying 45 pounds worth of camera gear on your pack.
Wow.
If you're lucky, it's usually more than that, because then you got to carry your own, food, your own sleeping bag and everything else, because you're probably bivvy hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got actors that don't know they're on camera, which are the wildlife, and you're trying to capture that. You're trying to be quiet. You're trying to not have scent. You're doing like 4 cameraman jobs in one, because sometimes you're running 2 cameras. You're running audio that has to be perfect. You're having to communicate with the hunter. If you're not ready, he can't take the shot.
Yep.
If it's not on film, it's just going to be a shitty, film.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what everybody wants to see is the kill shot. So it's, I miss it because of the challenge. I don't miss it because of the work.
Yeah.
And it pays garbage. Most guys who are offering me, they're wanting to trade me for something. And I'm like, listen, dude, I don't need exposure. My truck payment doesn't, get paid off of exposure. So, it's,
Sure.
it is what it is. And this, I'm $750 to $1,200 a day to pick a camera up. So, if you can't afford that, then we're not talking. And I would love to help people out. I'm just not in that place in my career anymore to be able to do that. And it's super time consuming, and people don't understand how hard it is. Like I give, like the guys that are really coming up, and they're not on the prime time slots, like Michael Waddell and all those guys in the big, they have expendable checks and they don't have to do much but show up and shoot something. It's the guys that are below them, like 3 or 4 hours ahead of their show, that put in some serious amount of work and serious amount of money. They wear multiple hats, and people do not understand how hard that is. Shooting a successful TV show is so much harder than doing something like Brotherhood of Brew.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, Jeff, we're going to take a break real quick and hear a word from our sponsors. But when we come back, we're going to hit on Onyx a little bit. You have some connections there, and you've worked with them in the past. We're a partner of Onyx. So Onyx has got a ton of different divisions within their company, and we'll talk about some of that when we get back, and a little more on Rogue Element.
All right.
This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Backwater Truck Supply, located at 100 Armor Creek Road in Nitro, West Virginia, right across from the Town and Country Supply. Contact them today at 304-610-8699 or check them out at backwatertrucksupply.westvirginia.com. Backwater Truck Supply specializes in accessorying your ride to your liking, new or old. Does your Jeep or truck need lifted or leveling kit installed? They've got you covered. New tires, oil change, or minor automotive repairs? They got you covered there as well, with a full-service lift along with a wheel balancing machine. They are affiliates with some of the top brands in the automotive industry. Contact them today at 304-610-8699 or check them out at backwatertrucksupply.westvirginia.com. Goodness gracious, I made it back just in time. Had to go to the little boy's room outside.
You did make it back just in time.
Yeah,
it wasn't no worries. If you didn't make it back, we were still going on without you.
Oh, I know.
You got to catch the train.
Got to catch the train. I'm on it, baby. So you want to do your salute to valor first?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and jump into that real quick. So tonight, our salute to valor is going to go out to Joshua Ben. He's out of Sturgeon, Missouri. He was in the Army where he was a sergeant. I guess he was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina as a Cav Scout with the 4th Squadron, 73rd Cavalry Regiment, also the 82nd Airborne Division. So he did one tour to Afghanistan in 2007. He was awarded the Bronze Star with Valor, a Purple Heart, Meritorious Service Medal, Army Accommodation Medal with Valor, and he got out in 2009. So we want to thank you for your service, and obviously being a Purple Heart recipient, he was wounded in some form or fashion while he was overseas defending our country. Yep. So, Joshua, we really appreciate your service, and we thank you.
Yeah, we'll toast to you, Joshua.
Absolutely.
Crack that open. The guy with
the fluffy
2
nutter.
first names.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I didn't even think of that.
There we go.
He's going to toast with the Fluffy Nutter Peanut Butter Marshmallow Stout.
He said it without even messing up.
That's right.
Wow, that's crazy.
Thank you, Joshua, for your service,
Yes,
sir.
thank you for your service. Absolutely.
I thought whoa.
Yeah, whoa. I told you.
It's stout.
It is definitely stout. I probably should have had that before I had the other ones.
Probably. That's why me and
Dave. It tastes good, but I thought, man, I don't really want that on my stomach with the other two because I wanted the other two, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's all right.
It'd be great with those Oreo balls my wife could.
But the weird thing is there are so many flavors in that.
There is.
Yeah.
It's just, like
I'd
like to take the time and really kind of
Jeff, you've got to make it to the East Coast and cook for us.
Or drink with us.
Or drink with us. I mean.
Yeah. Yes, please.
But speaking on that, so do you, have you ever seen that the Brewy app?
What is it?
It's called the Brewy app.
No.
Okay, so I was just introduced to this 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
5 minutes ago.
So this guy was telling me, because, I work out of town a lot. So I'm traveled, and I like to find local microbrews and all that. So this guy was telling me, he's like, have you ever used the Brewy app? I'm like, no, what's that? Because, I use that. I'm on that Untapped and all that. But he's like, it lists all the breweries in that area. Nice. All your microbrews and everything. So I downloaded it and checked it out, and I have used it quite a bit and found some really good ones.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen this moniker before. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, that it looks familiar. Here's one for you guys that, especially if you would like to find really good stuff on the West Coast. Tavour. Have you used that app before?
Never even heard of it.
Tavour, Tavour. I encourage you to do it. You can buy beer off of it. They're usually $1 or so more per can or bottle and maybe even a little more sometimes, but it's really hard to get stuff. But it's some of the best. I'm on there constantly. I actually bought some on there today. And it's just really good stuff. And the cool thing is it gets delivered to your house. You can build up a crate and then have it all sent at once so you can save on shipping. I sound like I'm plugging them. They've never sponsored me or anything, but they, dude, it's just really cool because I can get really good Midwest beer. Like Midwest kills it for certain types of beer. I've been into really smoothie sours. And they make there's some that are just phenomenal. Drecker, which I think is an Iowa beer. There's stuff in New York City, believe it or not, that's really good, especially out of Brooklyn. But yeah, you can cruise through that app. It's awesome. It's so cool. And here's another one, especially if you guys like any type of a really good stout, or I love barrel aged stouts.
I do too.
You guys can get Fremont Brewing, I call it the Holy Trinity of brewing, especially for stouts. And there's 3 of them as far as I'm concerned. Number 1 at the top is always been Deschutes Brewing. I think they're the goats of stouts. Then there's Fremont out of Seattle. And then third kind of changes every once in a while between Anchorage makes really good barrel aged stouts, but then also there's some places called Oakshire in Eugene, Oregon. They make some really good stuff too. But then there's a place outside of Sacramento called Moxa, and they're absolutely phenomenal. You'll never find them on this app, unfortunately.
I've heard of that.
All the other ones you can get on this app, and they're just really hard to find. And nice. I found a lot of good breweries from that app.
Now, to add to your plug here, now is that just a West Coast thing that you can get those shipped, or we download this app here? We can get them shipped to us.
It's nationwide.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
you can get beers from Alaska to Tallahassee.
Oh, all right. We'll be checking that one out.
Nice.
Yeah, you're going to spend a stupid amount of money on that
Yeah,
one.
probably. Well, see, I used to do the wine box or the not box, but the wine thing where you pick 12 different bottles and they ship it to you monthly, or just random bottles and stuff. That got hairy. I couldn't stop. I was drinking like a bottle a day there. It was
So,
bad.
I'm actually going to join you guys. Well, I see you're drinking beer, but I have a sip of this. It's mainly because we're doing something on the hunting realm, and I haven't had a chance to actually had it since I was we do a film on Amazon Prime, and it's also on YouTube called Divergent Pathways with Rogue Element. And the last one we did with Revel Entertainment, and like basically what that company does is they just create ads and content and stuff for a lot of companies. Like I think they're one of their bigger clients. They do the majority of the marketing content for Vortex Optics. A lot of companies like that, but they one of their camera guys is he's a cameraman and photographer for the show Beyond the Hunt.
Okay.
And they put out their own bourbon last year, and it's the Beyond the Hunt bourbon. It's they call it the official camp whiskey. It was distilled by Pine Bluffs Distilling in Pine Bluff, Wyoming, but it's actually an insane bourbon. It's I would say bourbon. It's rye. But it's actually phenomenal. It's like 50% alcohol, but it's super, super smooth. And I mean, if anybody knows that show, it's, they make a pretty good show. I've always enjoyed watching it, but it's funny to see their logo on a whiskey in a camp while I was shooting my show, and he brought it out and gifted me a fifth of it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's a good whiskey though. I think they should sell it on their website.
Okay. Might have to check that one out too. That's nice. We like some good whiskey, bourbons.
Oh yeah, I mean the one we was talking about there earlier, the 1863.
Yeah, see that I was looking that up.
Yeah, it's a West Virginia Gold, what they call it, straight bourbon, 100 proof. It's really smooth.
It is. And honestly, I had a taste of it. We tried it last night actually, me and Mike, and honestly, I had a taste of Blanton's. So obviously we pulled a bottle of Blanton's out, and the only difference.
Yeah, we taste tested.
Yeah, we did. We compared. And in my opinion,
it's the aftertaste.
The aftertaste. The Blanton's was better on the back end.
Yep.
Than this was, but all in, it was a person could mistake that for Blanton's easily. Yeah. I do believe.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. Yeah, you don't get me started on Blanton's and all. Those they get more clout than they're worth.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. Yeah. I like a Blanton's, but
Blanton's
I like a lot of things better than Blanton's. Honestly,
there's
and a lot of things I like better are cheaper, by far cheaper than Blanton's.
I've had like $50-$60 bottles that will absolutely destroy a Blanton's or Eagle Rare.
Mm-hmm. I've had a $20 bottle that would destroy Blanton's.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
You gotta find them. We had this one. Oh my god, it was so good. It was back in June. Yeah, I think was it June or May? We took a trip in May. It's actually on our Rogue Element YouTube channel. We did 6-day trip. We ended up doing like 2,000 miles. It was ridiculous.
Nice.
We went all over Oregon, Idaho, California, and we were out shooting ads. We filmed the whole trip, but we were shooting ads for our partners and sponsors of our show. And we were gifted a bottle from Colorado, of all places. So this place called Loophole Bros. It's spelled different than like Loophole Optics, but it's called Loophole Bros Bourbon Company. And a company gifted it to us. It's a $40 to $60 bottle. It is one of the best bourbons I have had in a long time. It's a little on the sweeter side. It was phenomenal. All of us have I have probably 60 bottles of bourbon in my liquor case right now, and I would put it right up in the front. And I have some stupid expensive Wellers. I've got multiple different types of Blanton's, and some bottles I spent $400 or $500 on.
Yeah,
this $60 bottle crushes them, and it's like really,
wow.
But and then we just had a cask version of theirs. It's $130 10 proof, I think, which is, it's decent. That's a good bite, but it was insane too.
I had
was just like,
I had a cast proof of the Angel's Envy over Thanksgiving.
oh, that's so good.
And it is very good. I was like,
that's I think one of the most underrated. Their regular bourbon, it is so damn good.
Yeah.
And their rye, they are so good.
I agree. Yeah, it's really good. And like you're saying, that the cheaper bottles can be better than the higher end ones. I think it all goes with name and the branding and the clout and stuff like that comes from the history. But you can get a $25 bottle of Scotch that's tastes as good as a $600 bottle of bourbon.
100%.
In my opinion.
I am a famous grouse Scotch guy. I know you guys are talking bourbon, but that's the thing for me. Some smoky black, shoot. Are you good on that? Oh man, love the smoky black.
The smoky black. Yeah.
Yeah. That smoky black is good. I do like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's my favorite drink.
It's a famous grouse.
Yeah, it's famous grouse smoky black. Yeah.
And it's just,
what is it, like $30 a bottle or something?
I think it's $27.99, $28.
No, I think the regular bottle's like $22.
It might be. I can't remember. I screwed up. I should have got you a bottle. I seen another bottle out while I was on the road. Yeah. Sorry. I know who's got
that's
it.
okay.
So we're gonna do a little partaking of the 1863 for our. So have you followed the sports here in West Virginia? I know you're probably you watch football and stuff like that. It's been going all around about Rich Rodriguez coming back to West Virginia to coach, and
yeah, I saw that. Congrats on that.
So yeah, definitely congratulations on that.
Yeah, this was the first year I have watched next to no football in college, and the reason is first of all, I being an Oregon State fan with the Pac-12 basically just going away, and we got screwed. That was hard.
Yeah.
To watch, we got us and Washington State got absolutely screwed out of the whole deal.
Sure.
Yeah,
but they're putting it to them right now.
I think the NIL and the portal have absolutely ruined college sports in general.
Yeah. Have you guys seen what happened with Marshall, where like they lost the majority of their team? They can't even do the bowl game.
Well, they have enough players to do it, but
they had 36 people in the transfer.
When we won a bowl position last year, we lost our head coach and almost every starter before our bowl game, and we lost 45-3 to Notre Dame. Notre Dame.
Yeah, see, that's what happened with Marshall this year, and they opted back out of the bowl because they lost so many people. Their head coach quit, and they lost 38 or 39.
Louisiana Tech, I think, is taking over for them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 5-17.
I don't agree with the portal mainly. Like I don't understand the portal. If you commit to a team, you stay your ass there.
Yeah,
and that's it's just completely ruined the game. The NIL, okay, let them make money. That's fine. I think it's a huge distraction.
See, and I can't see that because you get a scholarship, you're getting free education.
Yeah.
So you're getting paid in a form right there in my eyes.
It's messed up the kids that don't get full scholarships anymore, because I just don't agree with the whole money thing. I mean, I would be okay with like the endorsements and all that stuff that they were already doing behind the scenes anyways,
right?
Before all this started. But like since they've got the NIL now, I mean, you've got a quarterback. Look at Green at WVU.
Sure.
I mean, little old West Virginia University, Green was making $1.5 million.
Yeah.
He's making close to what the head
rookie
coach
contract,
is making.
Almost what a rookie contract in the NFL is.
Yeah. So
and look at Shedeur Sanders.
You're taking emphasis out of why you go to college. Obviously, yes, if you're athletic, you're
top tier,
you're going to college to go to the next level. I understand that, but that education matters.
Sure.
I mean, you always need a down or a backfall, and that's what. I don't know. One of the things that stuck with me, Jeff, we talked a long time ago, and I believe this was when you were in North Carolina, but we had talked about some different things during that time, and we were doing some duck calls for you guys, and Jeff was like, man, we were going through some issues there with something, and Jeff was like, man, people like us will always be successful in something because we're always striving.
Hustling.
And we're always hustling to get the job done. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, I don't, unfortunately, but it's some shit I'd say.
No, I mean, it is. And it's one of the things that stuck with me. And, like, us having this podcast, I'm just very thankful of the people that we've met over the years. with the business that we can have and come on and talk about things like this.
Yeah. And that's, that's the wild part of all of it. I mean, it all kind of comes in together, but yeah, it's this year was really hard to watch football. I watched our first like 5 games, and then we just started when we lost 28-0 to Air Force. I was like, we're so toast. It became hard to do, to watch that aspect of it. And then I'm a Detroit Lions fan. I have been for 35 years. So it has consumed all of me this year, to where I was kind of closely watching Big Ten and ACC and all that stuff to kind of see where it goes with them getting new Pac-12 teams and kind of like we're seeing where that went. They really catered to the Ducks, which made me so pissed off. I hope they get their ass whooped. Yeah. But it was just weird. I loved seeing Alabama fall finally. That was great. It's not that I don't like Bama. Their fans I can't stand them, but you just get to a certain point where it gets old, seeing the same team being number one. It was the same thing with New England when they were dominant. It's like, it's cool to watch because God, they were so fun to watch, but same time, you want to see new shit every year. You got
Belichick coming back into the scene here in college.
UNC, I know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wild. Yeah, watch out for
them.
But
I was reading something on that today, like, because they talked about that to Saban on the McAfee show, how his presence is going to affect recruiting. And it's already has.
Oh, I know it will.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
Oh, yeah. He's not going to have to.
You're going to want to learn from the best that ever do it.
Absolutely,
absolutely. Yeah. Somebody.
And there's there's people out there that was like, oh, it's not Belichick's coaching; it was Tom Brady, the GOAT, the whole way.
Bullshit.
Ever since he left, they can't win games anymore. And I'm like, whatever. I was like,
he lost his whole team though.
Right, exactly.
That whole dynasty left, and you have to rebuild. Any dynasty is that way. They go from being dominant. Look at the Bulls. Yeah. They still suck since Jordan left. Yeah, they haven't been a team since he left. Yeah. And LA's the same way. Look, Los Angeles can't do shit. Yeah. And they stack their teams constantly. That's the only ones that can seem to be constant with it are the Yankees. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They got LeBaby, though. That's their problem.
Yeah. But they're too also is they're unregulated with their dollars. They can spend as much money as they want where everybody else has a cap. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see Belichick because there's going to be guys who are like, I don't want to work that hard. They just want to be a starter and they want to do their own thing. He's not going to allow that.
No.
So, it's going to be his way or the highway. And he's going to, I hope he's successful. I don't see it being successful. I also don't like the Tar Heels because I'm a Duke fan, but
well, yeah, you have to. Your wife went to college there.
Yeah, they got enough of my money, but so that's another thing too. It's like is that going to create a rivalry now for football? Because there's really hasn't been a rivalry between Duke and UNC until the last couple of years where Duke's been pretty good for football. And now they're not hardly a rivalry whatsoever in basketball because they lost Krzyzewski. But, so it'll be interesting to see where all that stuff goes. I mean, I love sports at the end of the day. Football's, my favorite sport. And I'm hoping the NCAA pulls its head out of its ass and realizes what they're doing is not it's going to ruin football. I think you're going to find less people wanting to get involved. Yeah. High schools are already starting to get really bad numbers for kids wanting to play because of CTE and they want to be influencers. They don't want to be, sports stars anymore. So,
well,
sheer laziness is going to, I think, kill the sport in the end. But if the NCAA wants to keep it cruising the way it used to be, they need to put it back the way it used to be, where you come and you get a free education, you don't pay for anything. But at the same time, they need to make it a little bit easier because I've been in those shoes and I know that even with a full ride, you're still trying to find ways to feed yourself. You're trying to find fun things to do while staying out of trouble. And if they're making money on your name, they should be giving you something for that. I do honestly believe that. And the NCAA is crooked as it comes. They're going to take all the money, but if they can find a way to make it, maybe even taking part of that money and making sure that if you step on that, or if you're on that roster, your scholarship, you pay nothing for school, nothing. Sure. You shouldn't go there and put your body, into harm's way every single play and then also have a student loan. That's bullshit.
I do agree with that for
100%.
So I got one more thing to talk about on the sport thing, and then we'll get back into the outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
Calipari's coming back.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not see that.
So what do y'all think about that?
Where to, though?
Arkansas.
Really? I have not seen that, so now I will have to look that up.
He's coming back in, and they think that he can win one more time his big national championship there, but I don't know.
Arkansas hasn't had a bad basketball team the last couple of years anyhow, though.
No.
So he can build on that. And obviously, with the portal,
well,
he's going to pull some people.
They brought that up because of Belichick, obviously,
Sure.
coming into the college arena. And then they were like, oh, well, Calipari's coming back, and he's going to Arkansas. So I don't know. It may be something.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the outdoor stuff. So let's talk about I'm probably going to say it again wrong, but Sycan.
There you go.
Sycan Media.
Yep.
So you guys do content creation, social media management, broadcast commercials, advertising, specialist, photography. It's just kind of like it's a little bit of everything you're involved in. Is this kind of like the base company for all the other ones?
Yeah, so it's everything's umbrellaed under Sycan. Actually,
yeah.
Everything's umbrellaed under the corporation that I own, which is Helios.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's under Helios, but Sycan is basically the way I named Sycan is the first deer I ever shot with my grandfather. It was at a place called Sycan Marsh in Oregon.
Awesome.
So I named the company after that.
That is cool. And it rolls right back into it. The outdoors has a way of coming back to your life at all times.
Oh yeah, it does.
All times.
We talk about that all the time.
And I own property up there, and it's called Sycan Ranch. So it's
awesome. Which
is funny, but so everything's umbrellaed under Helios, but Sycan is basically the mothership. And it's a full-fledged media company. I mean, we do everything from sales consultations to creating, ads and content for multiple sources of incomes. I've had hundreds and hundreds of different clients, everything from BF Goodrich to Barrett to Mossberg to you name it. And, then we also do social media management. So it's been interesting.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sure they do a lot better ads than what we do on our podcast. But
maybe.
They probably have somebody better running the ads.
But I did voiceovers for a while, and then I got bored with it. It pays pretty good, but it just was boring, man. I don't, and it's weird hearing my voice like in ads. It's one thing hearing them in a voiceover like on a show or something, but when I just hear them, like I did a bunch of video ads trying to explain motor oil for a company called Torco Oil, and I had to like basically dumb down the oil process and why high-end oil is more costly than others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in front of a camera. Like I had a huge whiteboard in front of me that I was having to read off of, but also make it look organic. Like I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And it was holy shit. And it was 105 degrees inside the shop that I was doing it. It was so hot out. We had two cameras fail. I had a hard drive that legit melted. And I was like, I'd have to do everything in 30-second increments because I'd have to come in and wipe the sweat off my face.
Oh yeah.
And it sucked. And I remember they're like, hey, we want you to do another one. I was like, I'll do it in the winter. I'm not doing the summer shit.
I can only imagine on the level of those things. I mean, I do these small little ads that we do, like 5 and 6 different takes, and I give them 3 takes to look over and listen to before they pick the one that they like. And I'm like, God, I'm sitting here and I'm recording it and I'm hitting the record button. I'll do 30 seconds or like 5 seconds and I'm like, shit. So I hit the record button again, to stop it. And then I'll hit it again and I'm like, I've got 7 different things on the card that I got to take off there now just because they've only got 5 or 6 seconds. But, that's how you do it. You got to build it and you got to just, put the different layers in there to do that. And, you go back at the end and piece it all together and it comes together great.
Sure.
Add a little bit of music to it, and boom, you got a commercial.
Yeah,
as long as you hit the record button.
Yeah,
that sucks. Yeah, it's luckily I've only done that a couple times. I did that when I used to have a podcast. I did that. We were half an hour in before I realized I hadn't hit record yet. That's why you don't drink before the podcast. You drink in the podcast.
Right, yeah. So maybe we'll institute that for Dave.
Yeah.
We'll have to have some new rules that we write up here because we did 5 minutes this evening without having record on. But luckily, while we're recording to the Facebook Live, I can pull the audio off of there, and we piece it together, and everything's great.
Yep,
Just a little bit more.
That's why you always have a backup.
That is so. Man, I'm telling you,
We shouldn't have told him that yet.
I'm over here sweating bullets,
know.
guys.
I
We
know
know
you
he
was.
I'm like,
That's why
I'm
he
like,
looked at
dude,
me.
I am the worst production man in the history. You know what it is, though? I was late. I can't stand being late, Mike. I forget things every time I'm late for anything.
I know, but things happen. It's
Right,
life.
it's life.
It is.
Dude, it
So-
shouldn't happen.
Live
So,
and
like,
unscripted.
Jeff, we're sitting here and you're talking and going over, your background and all this, and he's like, I didn't hit the record button.
Oh, you should have saw me. Yeah.
I did think I was going to have to get some tissues.
I hid the
He
tears.
was-
I hid the tears.
He was messed up. For a
I
little
was
bit.
very distraught.
And I'm like, it's okay.
because I'm like,
it's okay.
This is an amazing episode. Everything is going so great. We got an amazing guest, and I screw up the first 5 minutes.
Maybe we'll let you call him later and get some production tips.
Maybe. You'll probably charge me for him.
It's all
Starts
part
to be
of
the
it.
future
Though.
when your head's in your ass. Yeah.
Oh, so back to the outdoors and everything like that. So with you having you said you had 3 kids, right?
Yes, I do.
So-
4, 8, and 11.
So have you got them out in the outdoors? Are you getting to introduce them to what you grew up doing?
Yeah. So my daughter, when she was 5, I believe she was 5, she went on her first hunt with me.
Nice.
And we hunted our asses off. We were at 8,000 feet in elevation up in the Sierras. So up on granite, like we're up in these granite peaks. And I went to shoot the first deer ever. And I looked down in her, or first deer with her anyways. It was a 3x3 and not big by any
Sure.
means. But it was the first legal buck we had seen in 3 days. And I looked down and her ear muff was half off her ear. And my gun is so goddamn loud
Oh,
that
no.
I didn't want to ruin her. And
Sure,
so I
sure.
didn't take it. And she was pissed. Like she was more upset than I was.
That's awesome.
And she's like, shoot it. And I was like, your ears weren't on. And I was like, I can't do that to you. And just the percussion of that gun is a 7mm. It's fully custom built by a
Oh,
place
wow.
called Grip Precision.
Okay.
And this thing, I've shot gongs at 1,100 yards with this, no problem.
Oh, wow.
And I had hot loads in it, and it would have probably just destroyed that poor buck.
Yeah.
It was 30 yards away.
Oh Lord.
And by the
Yeah.
time it
Oh, my
ran away,
gosh.
I was going to shoot it in the back of the head, and because it had kind of went to a slow trot at about 150 yards.
Mhm.
But I was standing, and I didn't ethically. I was like, I'll see him again, or I'll just let him grow. He looked like a promising buck. He was decently wide, but nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
And her and I sat and talked about it for a little bit, and
That's great.
I kind of knew where he was going, and it would have been about a 700-yard shot if he would have gone that way. He ended up taking a right instead of a left, but she hunts with me pretty regularly. She doesn't really have a desire to hunt quite yet.
Mhm.
And then 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, 2022, my son, who was 5 at the time also, or maybe, no, he was 6, or just turned 6. He went on his first hunt with me, and we had a damn adventure. We saw some bucks. We passed on them. I'm pretty big on not taking small bucks. I don't mind not having a full If I need to fill a freezer, I can go into, I can fly out to Missouri and fill a freezer and bring it back. I'm not worried about that, but I'm not going to shoot a small buck out here. There's just, especially in California, because we're not allowed to shoot cougars and now bobcats because of the dipshit Newsom, who's our governor. We have a predator problem really bad out here, and I'll see more bear than deer most trips.
Okay.
And I fill my bear tag almost every year, and it's not hard at all.
No.
Last time I shot one was with a pistol. But, I mean, that's just like how close I can get to them.
Wow.
And
now, are they fairly decent sized bears out there?
What's that?
Are they fairly decent sized?
Yeah, my last one was 350.
Oh wow. Okay. So
And that's on film. Actually, that's on a Rogue Element film. Oh, that's not my last one, but that was a bigger one. The last He was about 325. He wasn't 350 on that one, but the last one after that, I didn't film or anything. He was 350. And last year, I should have shot one who was he destroyed the trasheroo on the back of my truck, was about 500.
Jeez, oh Pete.
Oh my
He's a
goodness.
fat bastard. He's
I
on my
guess.
social media. He's on Rogue Element social media. It's about a little less than a year. That was in January. I was camping in Tahoe, and I kept hearing, it sounded like crunchy snow. It was snowing out, but I was like, man, who keeps walking around my cabin? And I look out the window, and it's actually him ripping off the canvas trasheroo on my spare tire, because one of my idiot guys left a goddamn dog food can in it and didn't tell me.
Oh,
So
shit.
yeah, he was
Oh,
trying to
man.
get into that, so he just absolutely destroyed it. And then I went to grab my pistol and came back, and he was kind of trotting off. And then I auto started my truck, and he just looked back at it like, what? And
Sure.
he walked away.
See, that's
I
when you
have
need to
size
grab the
13
shotgun
boots,
lamp.
and my boots fit inside his paws.
Oh, my gosh. See, yep, that's
Yeah.
when you need to grab the shotgun lamp.
Yeah, that shotgun's just gonna piss him off. You better have something bigger than that. Oh yeah, shotgun lamp. Yeah, I get it. That's great outdoors.
He got it
Took me a
now.
second
Yeah.
there. I even own a Wagoneer. I should know that.
You do. You do.
Yeah, I have an 85 Wagoneer that I'm doing a Hemi swap in right now. I've spent the last 2 years restoring it. It's
Well,
almost done.
Yeah, so see, you got to be careful, because when you strap Bigfoot to the roof of it, he will come back alive.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Harry Henderson.
Man, hitting all the
Yeah, so
classics
the
tonight.
kids
Harry
were out
and the
with me, but,
Hendersons. Yeah.
So the first night, so my son got fillings. He got a filling in his tooth that day. And so I took him to the dentist, and then we left straight from the dentist to go hunting.
Oh, wow.
And so he didn't have a great night. He ended up like waking up in the middle of the night. We slept in the back of the truck. I didn't set a tent up because we got up to the mountain so late. And so I just pulled over off into this big clearing off this old highway. It's called Mormon Immigrant Trail. And we pulled up off of this clearing and got to flat ground. And I just pulled all my big, I have Zargus cases and Pelicans and stuff, so they're bear proof. And I pulled them out, and we put a mattress in the back of the truck and went to sleep. But it was hot, so I have a smart cap on the back, and I kept the window open, and the window is barely big enough for me to get my head through. And so I just left it open. I was like, screw it, get some air in here. And he wasn't feeling great. Well, I was having this crazy lucid dream, like a dog was licking me in the face or something. I woke up, and a bear was sniffing me through the window in the back of the truck. And all I remember is slapping him in the nose and started screaming at him.
Whoa.
And I'm
Oh,
reaching
my
for-
Lord.
Now, yeah, I was reaching for my pistol, and by the time I got my pistol and ejected or put a shell into it, I went to shoot him, and he was already gone. I could hear him crashing over the hill. So I got out and got my flashlight, and you can see his paws up on the side. I think there's a photo or something on social media of it, but you can see his paws on the window, like in the where his paws were in the dust. And then you can see where he ran away. It wasn't a very big bear, but he was trying to get into my truck because he either heard me snoring or heard us, and I'm sure we had food in the back.
Sure.
But so that was the start of the trip. And
Jeez.
my son woke up like, what's going on? Why are you screaming? I was like, oh, a bear tried to sniff me. And he's like, what? And then he just went right back to sleep and didn't care about it. But in the morning when he saw the paw prints and stuff, it kind of got a little more real for him.
Sure.
But then, yeah, we hunted. We got, yeah, this sucked. So we were on deer. Like, we were trailing this buck. We heard him fighting with another one, and we came up on the dust just from their footprints.
Wow.
And I think we spooked him. And so we tracked this buck forever. And all I saw was the top of his antlers, and he was at least a 5x5 and 27 inches wide at least.
Daggone,
And just an
good one.
absolute behemoth buck. And we tracked him for, miles, the better part of a day. And we just finally we ran out of daylight. We couldn't track him anymore. So in the map, I marked my trail and GPS the whole thing. And so I could go back the next day. We ended up not seeing him. We saw the smaller one, but that night or that next afternoon, we went to a new spot, and we were just walking through, and all of a sudden we hear the side-by-side cruising up this trail or a road. And then we just sounded like a machine gun. And I'm like, what the hell? And you just hear, and then I hear phew, phew, phew going over my head. And so I grabbed my son, and we dove behind this giant ponderosa that was on the ground, and I could hear bullets going over us.
Oh,
And I just told him, I was like, you stay right here. I took my backpack off, and I have an old 1975 Winchester lever 30-30 that is my brush gun.
Sure.
So I had that in my hand and my pistol on my side, and I ran after them, trying to see them, but they were going so fast I couldn't see them. And there's 9mm casings all over the place. So I called 911. Luckily, I don't know how I had service. I just did.
Wow.
I called 911. They came up, found them, arrested them. They didn't have. It was just a bump stock. It wasn't a full auto. But because of the way they did it and everything, it was, it's a felony here. I mean, it's a felony in almost every state. You can't shoot out of a moving vehicle, for one. And two, just blatantly shooting into the middle of the forest where there's people. They drove right by my truck.
Wow.
And so I was like, God, this hunt's going awesome. If there's this much bad luck, eventually we're going to have something good happen. And so we just kept, we kept hunting, and we came back to that kind of same spot to camp that night. And we camp and like we have fun, and like we call it an early night. And I wake up at like 4 a.m. My alarm's set for like 5:30, and I smell smoke. And I'm like, that's weird. I knew there was a forest fire about probably an hour's drive away that they had just got to, like, basically it was at 100% containment basically. So it was, but I was like, maybe the wind shifted and I'm just smelling what's left of the burn. And then, so I went back to sleep, and then like 5 a.m, like I can smell it again, and the light's just now starting to just kind of peak up. No, it wasn't even light maybe. And I'm like, no, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And I knew there was a camp up a ways from me that we had seen earlier that day, about 3 miles up this gnarly trail. And so I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to start getting ready. I'm going to let my son sleep, but I'm going to pick up camp and get as much packed away in case something happens. As I'm just finishing up the last thing before I grab my son and then put away the air mattress in the back of the truck, I see a huge fire truck going up the road.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, oh, time to go. So I grab my son, I put him in his car seat, and he's 6 at this time, so he's got like a booster seat, and he's still in his pajamas. And then I see another fire truck, and all I hear is him, get the F out of here, fire.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh shit. Then I see 2 Jeeps going, and I'm waving them down. And I'm like, hey, I just got told to leave. There's a bad forest fire up there. I don't know anything about it. And that guy was bear hunting. We chatted for a little bit. And then another guy came up, and he's like, what's going on with the fire trucks? It's like bad fire. And he's like, oh, I'm out of here. So we turned away, like we drove out of there, and I knew of a lookout point that wasn't very far away. And we went up to the top, and sure as shit, you can see just, plumes of smoke. They ended up putting it out, which they got there in time to where it never became a big forest fire. But so I'm like, at that point, I'm just like, what else? Am I going to die next? Like, what's the next thing here? I'm either going to find a deer and we're going to shoot it, or something, another bad thing's going to happen. The only bad thing that happened is we didn't see jack shit. We saw 2 does for the rest of the time, and I only had a buck tag. But that was his first hunt. So I was just like, normally they don't go this way. It's normally we see stuff or kill stuff, and we didn't, we had an over-the-counter tag. So there's a lot of other hunters. In 2019, I missed a buck. Oh my God, that sucks. The buck of a lifetime, over a 200-inch mule deer with a drop tine on his right side. I missed him at 15 yards. The gun I have, that 7mm, I had just gotten it back from the guys who built it for me, and they zeroed it in for me out at 700 yards. I put new optics on it, and I changed a couple little things. They forgot to put my scope back to 0. So it was still set at 700 yards. So I went to shoot him. He was running at 15 yards, and I shot over his back, and I saw the bush that it hit behind, and I was sick to my stomach. I was sprinting for probably about 100 yards to try to get up and over this bluff to where I could see him. But by the time I got to the little hill, he was long gone. And so I was like, shit, well, I know where he's at. There's huge vantage points in the area. So I'm just going to sit here for the next 3 days and find the son of a bitch. Well, the next day I follow his tracks from the day before. We hadn't seen anything, and we jump him with a doe. And I can't get a shot on him because the doe keeps going in and out. So she's either behind him or in front of him. And I couldn't get a shot on him. And then he angled away from me to where I could have had like a shot in the back of the head. But again, it's not an ethical shot for me. And for a doe or a buck that magnificent, I don't want to wound him.
Right.
And he would, like, I don't get buck fever. I damn near got it on that one. I mean, he's a monarch.
Wow.
Even my camera guy who was with me, it was his first time ever hunting. And he's like, "Are they all that big?" I was like, "That's a once in a lifetime buck. That is." And I have the sheds from him.
Wow.
It's. I'll send you guys a photo of the sheds. My buddy found them that next year. We actually saw him. My buddy got that tag this year. The day after season ended, he saw him again this year. He's like, "Dude, he's even bigger." I'm like, he made it. He made it through a nasty forest fire and 2 really hard winters. Or 3 really hard winters actually.
Dang.
And
Awesome.
I got the tag this year, and I had to give the tag back because I couldn't make it up there because of a gig I had during the season. And but the cool thing is because I gave the tag back, I get the tag next year.
Oh wow.
So
That's good.
That's awesome.
that son of a bitch is mine. I'm taking the whole time. I'm taking a week off before. I'm bringing my travel trailer up. I'm parking it. I'm gonna find him somehow on foot the week before, and then I have 10 days to seal the deal.
Nice.
And it's a unit known for giant bucks anyway. So if I get anything, I'm gonna be happy. But I want him bad.
Sure.
Nice. Well,
Hopefully he makes it through this winter.
Yo, I got one more thing. So you're talking about taking your kids. You're not in easy terrain, so that's impressive. Like your kids are hanging with you, and able to do that. Like,
yeah, they're hiking 8 miles a day.
yeah.
With me, roughly.
So yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm sitting here. I'm like, you're talking about these stories, and I'm like, man, they're not in easy terrain. So
No,
these kids are learning some hard lessons right here on the outdoors. So that's awesome.
they're learning scent control. They're learning to be quiet. They're everything. They're learning. They have their own binoculars, so they help me glass.
Sweet.
They're doing all, and they get a shoot. So it's, my daughter next year will be old enough to hunt. I'm giving them I'm not going to force it on them.
Sure.
It's going to be up to them. Whether if she doesn't want to do it, that's fine with me. I was forced to do it, but I loved it. So
Right.
I know a lot of people have forced their kids and they ended up hating it. And I don't want them to resent me because I made them kill an animal. They fish their asses off. Like we go fishing constantly, like at least once a month. And they love that. My daughter caught her very first fish at 4 years old on a fly rod.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's, that's like, and my son too, he had to catch a fish on a fly rod before he used a spinner.
Nice.
So, that's in their blood for sure. The hunting side, they love to shoot guns and stuff. My wife is liberal, so she doesn't give a shit about that. But and that's my realm with them, not hers.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
it's going to be interesting. She says she wants to, and I'm hoping she does, because that's time for us to bond and do things that I really didn't get to do with my parents. I did it with my grandparents and my uncle.
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to share that with her, be able to take her out of school and go and do that and have some fun. And, and then she gets to respect it a little more. And she even mentioned the other day that she misses having elk meat at the house. So I was like, well, let's go kill an elk.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Elk meat's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
My favorite.
talking about, your extreme terrain and stuff. So we recently partnered with Onyx, and they have a division called Trout Routes now.
Yeah.
So we were with Trout Routes before the acquisition took place, and they kind of carried us over into the whole Onyx family. So what kind of Onyx products do you all use? I'm sure you all have used off-road one, right?
We actually did the beta testing for it.
Oh, did you really?
Before it came out. Yeah, because we
Nice.
were already with Onyx Hunt. We've been with Onyx Hunt since 2014.
Okay.
So Heavy Hitters was with Onyx, and then I just kind of absorbed that over. I called my buddy that was over there and said, hey, I'm starting this new thing, and, I don't want to burn you guys. Can I still do some stuff with you? And he's like, sure. And we were their number one source of content for a long time. And we beta tested through Death Valley and off-roaded through there and Mojave Desert and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And then when they released it, we've just been with them ever since. I think
awesome.
we're their first and oldest off-road content creators.
So
Wow.
so was you with them when you was doing the Raptor stuff?
I was with them when I had my Cummins diesel.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, before the Raptor. Yeah,
Wow.
way before the Raptor.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was with them when I had my 4Runner.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
And my Jeep, because with Onyx Hunt, I had my Jeep, and then when I started doing overland, I had the 4Runner I only own that POS for like 9 months, but then I went on to the Cummins, and the Cummins is when we started beta testing with them. That's when we did Brotherhood of Brew. So they're like, hey, you know, the hunt thing probably won't work with the brew side, but we have the off-road thing coming, you know, could you guys do something with that? And then, yeah, that was like our first real thing with them. And they kind of showed us how the app worked. It was like all new to us. And there's only one other company out there called Gaia, and I did not like it. It wasn't user friendly. And this one was super user friendly and showed terrain a little bit more. And it also gave me a little bit more of a understanding of how hard a trail was going to be in case I had people that weren't very good or inexperienced with me. So that was, you know, we did that and gave them tons of feedback and photos and everything else. And yeah, it's been a good relationship.
See, you should have incorporated that with Onyx so they could have all these breweries on the off-road trail.
We tried that. They didn't want to do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I think some of it's like, you know, the new company or new people that came in and stuff, they didn't want to have like alcohol-based things in there. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, a lot of the times we don't have cell service coming into some of these little ass towns in the middle of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And then there could be a good brewery there or something like that. It's like, it's like also a way for you guys to maybe even advertise within your app and make more revenue. But we tried doing that. We're like, hey, let us, you know, be able to do this and map out where the good beer is or, you know, a good bar or something like that where we can go and get you a good steak or something, you know, that would be really beneficial. And they still haven't released that.
Yeah. So far, they've been great to work with. We've like
I
I
said,
awesome. we worked with Trout Routes before, and they've kind of brought us over into that. And the guys with Trout Routes, we love working with them. But we've done a little Whitetail Weekly segment this year, and we featured Onyx maps in every one of those segments. So those are really good. Those have really been hitting good on YouTube. So kind of walk through the pre-rut and different phases of how
phases of hunting.
Yeah. The phases of how deer, you know, just their lifestyle, their habitat, their movement, and different things like that. So, and how you can incorporate all that stuff with Onyx. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's it makes going out, like, I find it there's a couple of reasons why we really promote any app for that matter that you know, you can see where you're going or navigation or anything like that. One, it's a safety issue. Like you need to know where you're at.
Absolutely.
And here's one thing that I took from living on the East Coast for a while. My bearings were so jacked up after living on the West Coast where you can look at a mountain and know exactly what direction it is all the time.
Yeah.
When you get out to like a place like Durham, North Carolina, where there's no hills, no nothing, like it's hard to realize where you're at. And it kind of puts things into perspective a little bit more. It's like you're dropped in the middle of nowhere. It's like you better know how to find north and south really quick. And it's hard out there. Like, it's weird. I remember being in, like, when I first moved there, I could only hunt on public lands because I didn't know anybody, which, dude, you want to talk about putting your life in someone else's hands, is hunting public lands in North Carolina. I was almost shot several times while I was there. I ended up giving up, and I only hunted public or private land after that. But I remember going in the dark, and had I not had an app or something that showed me directions, I would have never made it back to my truck. I got lost so easily when the light came out that it was like everything looks the same. And so it's like, holy shit. I mean, West Virginia's a lot different. You guys got mountains and stuff, but down south and stuff, I'm like, how do you guys know where north is? Like, I remember working at my dealership, and they're like, yeah, go up north. And I was like, which way's north? And you're talking to an Eagle Scout. I'm like, I have no clue right now without a compass to tell you which road goes north and south here. I have zero clue. All I know is that if I go far enough west, I'm going to run into the Appalachians. That's just, and if I go east, I'm going to find the water, and that's it. That's all I know here. And that was tough. But, you know, for one, having an app that makes your travel safe, but also convenient, like you can find certain things in a lot of these apps too that is great, is now that they're trying to involve the community in these apps, which Onyx is really the only one doing it, where like if I want to see something that I've never been to maybe in an area, there might be like, I could pick a landmark and somebody might have taken photos or put some information in there, or they updated, the community went into a road and finds out that it's closed or there's a washout. And now I know that instead of wasting hours of time going down the road to have to just turn around again. And those are big things. And it even goes even onto the hunting side where I mean, you open up my app and it looks like a third grader's been in there just putting dots and drawing shit everywhere. And especially on the West Coast, like I just pulled it up now, and I mean, it's the whole West Coast, literally from Canada to down into the Baja, Mexico. It's just multiple colors of dots everywhere, especially gas stations, because we drive, V8s. But yeah, it's just littered with that. And then you pull up like the hunting side, and it's like, all it is it's mainly tracks of us tracking animals that we either couldn't find or didn't find, or it's like camping spots everywhere, or tracks of finding something. But yeah, I like it. I geek out on these apps. They're fun as hell, and I do a lot of research beforehand as to where I want to go, and it's way better than Google Earth. Like Google Earth drives me batshit crazy because they change it constantly. But it also doesn't show me, it doesn't show me private property, doesn't show me any of that stuff for the most part. It just shows me the landmass. And I can find cool stuff on Google Maps, but I usually find it first on Onyx.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Man, Jeff, it's been such a great time having you on tonight. We could talk forever, buddy.
Oh, thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Yep.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
Likewise.
So, yeah, man. So it's great having you on. Everybody go check out the Rogue Element. And you said the Brotherhood of Brew is kind of taking a break for a little bit?
Yeah, it's going to be on hiatus for a bit. We're going to find a way to bring it back. I think it deserves at least a second season.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
I would have to procure the funding for it first. It's really expensive to do it, but it really is worth it.
If you get it
we're
going
wrapping
again.
up Divergent Pathways, which is our Rogue Element series that's on Amazon Prime. It's also for free right now on our YouTube channel, which is just Rogue Element, but our license is up on Amazon right now, so we've been sending everybody YouTube so they can watch it for free. But it's a high-end film series. The director's cuts are still out for the first 4 episodes. We're gonna reintroduce those with just a better, shorter edit to around 45 minutes. But the last one we just did in Moab is awesome, and the second part of that's coming out in about a month.
Nice. That's great. All right, guys. Well, be sure you go check out the Rogue Element there, and be sure if you have any kind of media services or needs that you're needing for your business or whatever, check them out there on Sycan Media or
Sycan.
Sycan. Sorry,
Sycan Media.
Sycan.
Yep.
I don't know why I want to say Sycan. Sycan Media. Anyways,
it's
Jeff,
Dave's fault.
It's Dave's fault. Blame it on Dave.
We blame everything on Dave anyhow, so yeah.
It's great having you, brother. It was good talking to you.
Likewise, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep,
all right,
thank
man.
you.
Have a good evening.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
Yep. All right, guys. Be sure to check us out on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're there. Thanks for listening this evening. Appreciate everybody watching the live, commenting in. We love commenting. We have Dave now that's got another job. He's actually commenting here and answering back to people that's commenting, and he's kind of monitoring those. So comment, chime in. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
Y'all have a
guys.
good evening. This episode of On the Limb with Nature's Voice Game Calls is brought to you by Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport. Local and long-distance towing, auto recovery, roadside assistance, auto lockouts, and jump starts. And they also do repossessions. Give them a call today at 304-949-2323 or 304-925-0858. Again, that's Carts Towing and Timco Auto Transport, 304-949-2323, 304-925-0858.